There is a part of your brain that rewards you for learning how to fix your life almost as much as it would reward you for actually fixing it. And that's not a metaphor, that's basically dopamine. Every video that you watch about your problem, every book that you finish, every post that you save, you get that same hit. Not when you apply that information, when you absorb it. And this detail is really important, so please stay with me. So you feel clearer, you feel like you finally made some progress after all this time. And the change that you are looking for never actually happened yet, which might be the reason why you've been stuck for years. Not because you are lazy, and for sure not because you lack discipline, because your brain is basically paying you for work that you never actually did. Let's get specific because this is the part that most people I think get wrong. Dopamine is not the reward chemical, it's the chasing chemical. It spikes when your brain believes a reward is on its way, not when you arrive at it. It's the molecule of about to. So you sit down and you watch something called How to Finally Stop Procrastinating, or you watch my video. And as you take it in, your brain lights up almost the same way as it would if you were actually on your way of changing. You get that hit of about to fix it without doing actually any of the fixing. Then I think it comes the part that nobody mentions. After a spike like that, your dopamine doesn't settle back to normal. It dips below the point where you started, and it sits there for a while before it climbs back to normal. That's how our bodies works. Andrew Huberman explains this super simple. Every high is followed by a small calm down, basically like a wave. So you don't finish the video feeling neutral, you finish it feeling slightly flatter than before you press play. Think about it. And that little dip is exactly what makes the next video appealing. You just want to get back at feeling okay. If you do this for one afternoon, it basically recovers on its own. There's not a big problem. But if you do this for days, for months, and that starting point slowly starts to drift lower and lower, so it's even harder to get back to your baseline. You're not actually getting smarter, you're chasing the feeling of getting back to normal, and that's the feeling you are chasing this whole time. Not the spike of about to, the quiet of being done, the calm, settle, I actually did it feeling, if you want to call it like that. It runs completely on a completely different wiring, and you can't get it from watching a video. And even if I make this video, I know how that sounds. You can only earn it by doing it. Now, if this would happen once, I think it will be harmless. Let's call it a fun brain fact, which is good at parties. But this doesn't happen once, it compounds. It's just like compounding interest. Every book you finished without applying, every video you watch without acting on it, every insight you collected and never used. Each one was that little peak followed by a little drought. And slowly, the chasing itself started to feel like progress. I don't think I'm alone in this, and I think most ambitious people are quietly stuck right here. So let me show you what all that chasing actually builds towards. Your brain hates an open loop. An unfinished thing sits in the back of your head like a browser tab that you forgot to close, and it's quietly pulling at you until you deal with it. That pull on its nature is useful. It's supposed to push you towards acting. But here's the catch. It also consumes resources, valuable resources for your brain. The moment your brain decides a problem has been handled, that pull, it's let go. And watching a video about your problem feels almost identical to handling it. So let's say you have a productivity problem, you watch a video about productivity. The problem is handled, the pull is gone, and the loop is closed according to your brain. You did something that feels responsible, and your brain gave you full credit for the intention. The engagement becomes the accomplishment, and that's where it stops being a fun quirk fun facts at parties, and it starts literally being a trap. You didn't fail the system. The system did exactly what it was built to do. Every video made you feel slightly better about the problem it described. And that slight relief was enough for the time being, just enough progress to keep you from doing basically anything real. Just enough clarity to make that confusion feel handled. I like to think that you are being medicated is basically one video at a time. And believe me or not, I know that the irony is not lost on me. You're watching a video about how watching videos keeps you stuck, and you probably feel so good about this insight that the second this video is done, you'll click on another one just to keep that momentum going, that feeling good feeling going. I know it's very efficient, but please trust me. And I want you to know that here's the part that should really bother you. You already know some of this. I'm not giving away new information at this point. You feel that the consuming itself might be the problem, but knowing it doesn't stop you. And if this were only about wasted time, you probably have quit already. The fact that you didn't, that you couldn't in fact, that's not about chemicals in your brain anymore. Hey, by the way, my name is Mihnea, I'm an engineer, I am not a therapist, and I like to make videos and try to explain how we actually work and not how we're supposed to work. If this is landing with you, if you already recognize a little bit of yourself in this, consider subscribing. There are more people figuring this out around us, and I'd rather you be in the room for the next part. Now, before I go deeper, I want you to do something for me. Count roughly how many books, videos, and podcasts about becoming better you've watched or you've consumed this year. And now count also how many of this content you acted on within the day of learning about them. If that gap is quite wide, you're not broken, don't worry, we will figure this out together. I want to say that you're caught in something specific, and I want to show you exactly how this played into my own life, because for me this was never theory. When I was a kid, my father told me one thing that shaped the next 20 years of my life. He said, speak only when you are absolutely certain. Speak only when you're absolutely certain. I'll put this somewhere big on the screen. I know it came from a really good place. He wanted my words to carry weight. But here is what this rule quietly turned into. Do not open your mouth until you study every single angle. Do not share your opinion until you've researched the topic to death. Do not let yourself be seen until you are ready to be judged. And I carried that into adulthood like it was wisdom. I kept preparing, I kept studying, I kept getting, I guess, ready to finally be ready. But there's no such thing. And here's the part that took me personally years to see. That rule wasn't advice anymore, it became a program running underneath everything I did. In the framework that I studied, the process communication model a couple of years back, they have a name for this. It's called a driver. And what a driver is basically an unconscious rule. Usually it's installed when we are really young, and it's often by one of our parents, one of our caretakers who meant well. But it's something that runs the show before we even notice that it's on. In my case, the rule was simple. I'll be okay as long as I'm perfect first. And a driver doesn't feel like belief anymore. It feels like it's your identity. Underneath that driver, there are three main fears that are running. The first one I think is pretty obvious, which is fear of failure. If I act before I'm ready, I might get it wrong where people would see me. So preparing forever feels safe compared to failing once. The second one is the fear of being judged. If I put myself out there into the world, people get to have opinions about what I'm putting or about me as a person. If I never do that, I never hand them anything to judge. So preparation becomes a protection in this case. But I have to tell you that the third one took me years to name. It's actually happened last year, 2025. It's fear of success, because I never let myself ask the real question. What if I actually change? What if I grow into someone with different goals who doesn't quite fit the life I have right now? The life that I spent so many years building, all those relationships, everything. I was scared that if I succeeded, I would lose the people around me, and to be honest, that's quite terrifying. And it's not because they will leave, but because I'd change and maybe they don't want to come along. And that fear is real, and it's also okay. The people meant to stay, they will grow with you or they won't. And either way, you are allowed to give yourself the choice to grow. But when one of those fears goes unnamed, it doesn't just sit there quietly, it builds an identity. Psychologists have a useful finding here. People don't only act based on what they want, they also act based on who they believe they are. You don't pick a salad just because it's healthy. You pick it because you are someone who eats healthy. Makes sense, right? The behavior follows the identity, and it's not the other way around. It's not the identity follows the behavior. Now, put this on top of all the years of self-improvement. You didn't just spend time absorbing frameworks and collecting insights. You build an identity out of it. And the identity was this: someone who is always becoming. I'll put this somewhere big on the screen. Someone who is always becoming. Always one bookend, always refining the system, always one insight away from finally starting. That permanent feeling of almost ready becomes who you are. It definitely became who I was at the time. The permanent feeling of almost being ready becomes who you are, and that's the whole trap of this. Because when becoming is your identity, arriving somewhere is a threat. Think about it, what committing to one path actually costs you. You stop preparing, you stop optimizing, you go with whatever you have right now. And if you do that, two things happen that the becoming identity cannot survive. The first one is that the becoming stops. If always becoming is who you are, then arriving feels like you are losing yourself. And the second one, and this one is the one that your brain is guarding against, is really guarding against, you can now fail, specifically where people can actually see it. The becoming identity never has to face that because it's always still preparing, right? You cannot fail at something you haven't fully started. Psychologists call this approach avoidance conflict. You want the committed life. You can see it and you are drawn to it, but the closer you get, the harder you pull back. Not because you are afraid of hard work, because you are afraid who you'd be without the becoming identity. So when you open another self-improvement video, instead of doing the work you already know how to do and what to do, you are not procrastinating, you are maintaining an identity. And unfortunately, the cruelest part about this, it doesn't feel like you're hiding, it feels like growth, that you're growing and improving. So how do you actually get out of it? Not after one more book and not after making one more detailed framework about it. Now, Chris Williamson, the host of Modern Wisdom podcast, has a line that cuts straight to this, something that I mentioned in some of my previous videos. The only thing about doing the thing is doing the thing. Not talking about doing the thing, not planning about it, not telling your friends and family what you're about to do. Those all give you the hit of dopamine of about to, which is that cheap peak that we talked about. And then it comes the crash. Doing the thing is the only thing that gives you the other feeling, the quiet of done. So here's one rule that I try to use. I call it insight to action ratio. So every time you consume something and it gives you a real insight, you basically have 24 hours to take an action on it. Not to make a plan, not to create a system around it. Take an action. Something you can point at and say, I did that. So basically, I will repeat. One insight, one action, 24 hours. The size doesn't matter, or At least I like to tell myself that. What matters is that you break the loop. You stop chasing the feeling of about to and you start earning the feeling of done. The first thing I did with this rule was to send an email that I was avoiding for the last 6 weeks. It took 90 seconds to be honest with you, and ask me why I waited 6 weeks. And after I sent it, I felt something I haven't felt in months. I felt done, not prepared, not almost ready. I felt done. It was the calm, settled feeling that is the thing that we've all been chasing this whole time. And unfortunately, this is not something that you can download, you can buy, or you can get as a software update. You can only earn it. And I will not pretend that I've got this fully figured out or solved. I still catch myself reaching for one more video or a couple more videos, but now I notice it, and noticing it is enough to choose differently. You don't need another insight, you don't need another video, you've had what you needed for a while. The preparation was never about being ready, it was about staying safe, protecting your identity. And safe, as hard as it sounds, is not the same thing as growing. Here is what I want you to do. When this video ends, pick up one thing that you've been preparing for. Not the biggest thing, the one that you've been postponing it for the longest. Take one action in the next 24 hours. Do not make a plan for it, take the action. And then come back and drop it in the comments. Not what you're going to do, but what you actually did. I read every single comment that you give me, and I genuinely want to know what clicked with you. And if you saw a little bit of yourself in this video, if you've been becoming for a while and you are tired of it, subscribe and stick around, because we're not building motivation here, the two of us. I want to build the system of understanding how people actually work. Take care of yourself. I really mean that, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.